disaggregate a little and nuance the space of transnational NGOs and how they are acting. Secondly, and relatedly, I think it's also important to consider that you can have another phenomenon or manifestation of transnational NGO reality, which is an important distinction, which is more associational transnational NGO life. And this again may have many other typologies within it. What I have in mind here is, so if you think again, let's say of the World Council of Churches as an example, based in Geneva, you would say it's a transnational NGO space, to the extent that we may characterize civil society as that organized space between the individual and the state, to the extent that it is working on purposive public questions. And you could say the World Council of Churches as a space is associational, is associative, and it is organizations that are coming together in a transnational reality, but on the basis of an egalitarian associational life. And on the other hand, you have an organization that may be transnational, but that's based on a center of gravity where it has been founded in the north, and then it can have field offices, however manifested. And I think that continuum in itself, I think, offers many interesting typologies in between. And the question might be, where does one locate, let's say, Transparency International, where does one locate anything else across that continuum? Second last, whatever then the typology is of organization, firstly having differentiated them, secondly having thought about this dichotomy between associational engagement and a more unidirectional sort of beginning of an organization that then has tentacles all over the world. One critical arena in which these battles are being fought is, of course, the question of governance within organizations themselves. Because it is interesting that in the space that you articulated, where, for instance, you meet as Transparency International, discussing the international plans, regional plans, and so on, or discussing other issues, it is interesting to think about what that space would look like by just a small flip of the way it is structured. If it becomes not just a discussional cooperative space, but also becomes a governance space where there is actually discussion about internal accountabilities. And there are a number of models that are being generated now in organizations about this concept and this discourse. ActionAid, for instance, provides one of the most interesting models on this. There is something that we have introduced recently within my own foundation. So the governance space is interesting, and I won't go into detail for now in terms of time, but I just want to put it on the table as a topic. And then fourth and last is the critical question of resources, which you started off with. It is both an integral part of the problem statement, and I liked it that Mary Jane put it on at the cusp of a discourse. But at the same time, it is conversely an interesting part of the solution. And here I want to briefly share the model that we use in the space in which I work, and very briefly just in terms of introducing conceptually this issue. So within the Open Society Foundations, our model of resource deployment is based on four dimensions of work. So there are four ways in which we work. The first one is grant making, which is the most straightforward. So we say, for instance, would we need to empower, would we need to support, where do we need to put the money? And this is mediated on the basis of local decisions. And this is a critical dimension. So just as much as contemporary public policy insights have indicated that devolution of resources is one of the most important ways, or even of decisions, is one of the most important ways of ensuring accountability. That obviously it is going to be easy for that small county or even for that municipality to monitor the way resources are being used, than if the only relationship was between the federal government doling out money and a community of people. Equally, devolved resource or resource devolution in grant making is a critical way of ensuring accountability and I think an attempt to cure these issues. So in our model, we say there will be in all the countries where there is a foundation of open society, a board of governance of locals. So show us the best minds in your country, in your region, come together and mediate over where the money is to go. So we will say, for instance, to the Southern Africans, here is your annual $20 million. What you do with it is your business, and we mean it. It's your business, and what we will do is monitor that nobody is stealing it. There is no insider knowledge, and so on and so forth, conflict of interest, and so on. Those are corporate issues about transparency. But the decision substantively about whether you put that money into engaging with your regional organization in SADC, or you put it into extractive industries, or you put it into building civil society, or you put it into dealing with violence against women, or you put it into dealing with legal aid, is your business as a community. So devolution, I think, under grant management is one. The second mode that we use in our work is convening. And under convening, we are saying, precisely because we are an international actor, we have an opportunity to relate to some networks internationally that we may not have access to. And within convening, again, is a space where roles can be defined very carefully. And I think it's important for international NGOs to then have a very specific, distinctive role that's based on their international competence and not just a generalist role. And I think convening itself is one mode in which that happens. The third is capacity building, and we say it is imperative in any relationship that we have with any local entity that capacity be devolved from the sender to the periphery if it is at the sender. But at the same time, it is important for there to be south-south linkages in terms of capacity. So if there is somebody sitting in Lima, where you guys started from, in terms of your pedigree, who is good in terms of a particular methodology of transparency, there is no reason why they shouldn't come to Colombia to facilitate capacity building rather than have somebody from Berlin. And that's part of the model. And then lastly, advocacy. And on advocacy, we say advocacy will be done on the ground except where we can add value as an international actor. Add value in the sense that sometimes advocacy is necessary to be done internationally because you may actually be endangered as local actors, and it's useful to have voices that are going to support your cause internationally. Or it may be that there is something that we add of a comparative analytical nature. If we are going to say we are working on pre-trial detention, and this is the picture globally in terms of people that are being held unfairly before trial across the world, it may garner a certain level of intellectual prestige and respectability and integrity compared with maybe just saying we have a pre-trial detention question in one country. And there are other dimensions that relate to advocacy. But let me stop there in terms of just these four dimensions of how we work as part of my fourth point about some of the ways in which one can begin to think critically about the space that you can interact.
I have to say, I really regret that we didn't set aside a lot more time. I found this extremely stimulating, this interchange. So we have 20 minutes. I have to take Tawanda to some web interviews which will appear on our TNGO website in a couple of days after today. So we have 20 minutes for questions, answers, discussion points, comments you want to bring up. Please, who wants to take the floor?
Yes, my question is directed to Mary Jane. You mentioned about the disparity between the the Global North and the Global South, especially in the work of Transparency International. I don't know much